With the Ron Toy team, Cross Country Mortgage. It's going to be a busy week. So wanted to go live. Sorry I didn't get to go at 2. My appointment ran over, so here we are. We're going to talk about what's going on in the market, why a lot of us loan officers were telling people ahead of time to get ready for the rate changes because there's always this weird volatility, and go from there. But also bring up the charts so you have the behind the scenes info instead of just somebody telling you what's, and go from there. But also bring up the charts so you have the behind the scenes info instead of just somebody telling you what's going on. There we go. So let's look at the markets. What's going on right now? Where are we at? So let me move my head out the way. And don't worry, if you miss some of this live, you can always reference back later during the day, because I'll go to my YouTube channel and upload it there. So let's move out the way so you can screenshot this. Okay, so what you're going to see is the bond market. Where are we at? 101.4 on the 5.5% coupon. We're up 5 basis points, which is great. But if you see, we're below that number. That line of 101.5. That was our kind of our ceiling right now. So as the market continues to rebound, I told you it wasn't going to be a straight line. It's going to have some volatility. That's why you want to have a rate lock strategy in place with your loan officer so you can make sure that you take advantage of the market as we lead into it. Because this week's going to be busy. There's a lot of economic reports coming out that's going to impact rates. The Fed's favorite measure of inflation, PCE, that comes out on Friday. So we want to make sure that we are paying attention to this and getting ahead of it as we enter into the fourth quarter, because the fourth quarter is right around the corner. This is why I wanted to talk about it coming into that so that people are prepared, because what happens also here in October in Texas is property tax bills start coming out. That can impact the way you structure your refinance. So you want to make sure you're talking with your loan officer to get ahead of those changes so that you know, hey, what's this going to do if we close mid-October and property tax bills come out? Ask these questions. So that's what this live is about, is empowering people to either make a buying or refinancing decision, also giving tips and tricks to loan officers and realtors on how to have important, impactful conversations with their clients that will also help them feel comfortable and confident with their decision to either purchase, refinance, or sell their property. So we got the markets. Why I have those things highlighted and I moved out the way so you can screenshot it is the question you want to ask your loan officer when you're shopping rates. What is the bond market price and coupon that this rate is attached to? The bond market price, like I showed in this screenshot, is 101.4. The coupon is the UMBS 30-year 5.5% coupon. You want to know that because depending on what time you call, there's going to be different pricing. So when you're shopping loan officers, you want to make sure you're comparing apples to apples. And this is one of the key factors in that, is knowing those numbers. So let's pull up another chart. Let's see. Right. What happened here? I do not know what I did. Let's go ahead and pull up the calendar. So this is stuff that you want to pay attention to this week that could impact rates. Like I said, I'll move out the way. Thank you, everybody who's joining. It means a lot to me. I'm a licensed residential mortgage loan officer here in Texas. My name is Ron Toy, senior loan officer at Ron Toy team at Cross Country Mortgage. Talking about the market, real estate, answering questions, but also saying what's going on with the interest rates this week and what we can look out for as we move into the fourth quarter. So we're looking at this. I've got it highlighted, stuff that came out today, important. But really, what's going to be Wednesday's relatively quiet. Thursday is going to be busy. Continuing jobless claims, you can see it here. But Friday is huge. Friday is when we get PCE. That's the Fed's favorite measure of inflation. So we want to look at those personal consumption expenditures and see how the economy is going, because the Fed cut the Fed fund rate by 50 basis points last week, which a lot of us were projecting. Some were saying 25. The market had already built in a 25 basis point cut. So 2-3 weeks ago, the rates were about as low as they were going to be, give or take a little bit of volatility throughout the day. But it's baked in. But now the market's correcting a little bit. And as it goes in, we had China's decision and what they just announced, and they're trying to do some monetary loosening, lowering their down payments for their mortgages and doing some other things to help stimulate their economy because they're struggling really bad right now. So that caused some volatility in our markets. And it all is because the global economy, the global markets impact each other. And so that's why it's important for America to have a strong economy. Like we've had the fastest rebound from a small period of time during COVID. so that we are actually leading the world in that rebound. But this is some of the reasons why our Fed tightened. They went a little too long, but now we're starting to see it because on Friday, depending on how PCE comes out, could have a huge impact on rates the next week and even on Friday. Let's pull up the next slide because there's some other stuff that I want to talk about in general that you should expect because everybody's getting blown up by text messages and emails from loan officers who don't have relationships with clients, but they buy what's called trigger leads. So my goal again here is to educate you so you're an informed consumer so that you're not getting taken advantage of these fly by night companies that are called like refinance chop shops where they buy your data. Where's my data, Ron? How come they can do this? The credit bureaus sell it. And I want to show you a little bit about behind the scenes on TransUnion, what you can do to get out of it, and so you can get ahead of these crazy spam calls and spam texts and all of the drama that's coming. So thank you everybody who's joined. If you have questions, put it in the comments. I'm going over the market, what to expect, and also how to stop not just mortgage people texting you and calling you out of the blue, but also any kind of solicitors. It's so frustrating. I hate that our data is a commodity, but as we continue to move into the future, it's going to get more and more. But let's go. So one good thing with iPhone, if you get spam messages, you can copy the message and forward it to 7726. It's spam, and your carrier will kind of start taking care of it. Let me show you some other options. But this is on TransUnion's website, right? You want to go into TransUnion's website and go to their business services. They sell and aggregate your data. They don't sell your private data, but they are going to sell your data to these companies. And they have proactive efforts to try to help get ahead of legislation as we try to make rules that go into place to stop them from selling trigger leads. They're like, oh, guess what? We're doing everything we can to get ahead of that legislation. So businesses continue to, solicit people and make a bunch of money. I've got all this highlighted here so you can go to their website and see it. It's just creepy to me. And TransUnion, Equifax, Experian, they all do it. And so the only ways to get away from that is a couple of different things. One, you want to make sure that you're on the do not call register. Go on there, double check that you're registered. And if you are not, sign up. That's going to help reduce some. The other is optoutprescreen.com. You can do the electronic opt-out, which is for 5 years, and you won't get emails and texts and certain things like that. But you can also do another one where you print it off and you mail it, and then that means they won't be able to mail you those junk mailers. This is the way to get ahead of it, especially as we go into more of a tight situation where there's less and less influence from regular people and more spam mass marketing efforts, especially as rates come down. Trust me, you're going to get blown up. And I want to help people get ahead of it. So keep in mind, that's TransUnion. Let me pull up the other one for opt-out pre-screen. I already showed you this. Ugh. Yeah. Already adapting to changing regulation. I just hate it. Different things that they offer to businesses on TransUnion's website. But here's the thing that will help you. And it's not just me. Anybody can go there. It's just a flyer that I have for my clients. But yeah, we don't sell your data, but the credit bureaus do. And then you got to know that. You got to know where it's happening because you do a mortgage application. It's called a trigger lead because when you pull your credit, now anybody who doesn't have relationships can pay those bureaus to then tell them when somebody's getting it. And there's these websites that aggregate the data for mortgage companies that aren't just TransUnion and Equifax. They're companies that pay it and then put it together, like Property. What was the name of the company? Property something. Let me see. I'm going to pull it up on my deal here because I have to get you guys this information. It's so crazy. Trying to see where I made that note yesterday. Property Radar. Go Google that. It's so weird. I cannot believe it. They gives you like the loan amount, the owner, and all this other stuff if you pay for it. And there's mortgage companies out there that are paying and hooking up with this because they're loan officers. They just want them banging the phones and dialing and emailing and sending out these huge nets trying to get whoever they can gather, which is unfortunate because sometimes they can clone the media because it'll tell you where who their company was that they closed with and make it look like they're affiliated with the lender. But at the very bottom in fine print, not affiliated with your lender. It's like, well, then why'd you put the servicer's information or who the deed was recorded under? Because you got to remember, if you own a home, the deed is a public record. So you need to understand that. And so let me pull up the last thing I wanted to cover today, which I think I got, but property radar. So let me take off the screen, welcome people in the chat. Thank you so much for joining. If you have questions, put it in the comments. If you've ever thought about buying and haven't, let me know why. If you do own and you're thinking about selling, let me know your concerns. Or if you're renting, you're thinking about making that jump, let's talk, because there's so many opportunities for people to get into homes for significantly less out of their pocket than they actually think. And they might not know about it because they haven't talked to a loan officer. So let me get this thing off the background. There, let's chit chat. So any questions you have, put it in the comments and we'll go from there. Thank you so much for everyone who's joining. I'm a licensed residential mortgage loan officer here in Texas. I've been doing this about 10 years and helped about 2,000 families with their home investment journey. And it's a passion of mine. I love to help people build long-term generational wealth through home ownership. And making that path less intimidating is a key focus for me and my team. And how we do that is through education, communication, and being considerate of the stress and pressure that people are under, because buying a home or selling a home is in the top 5 most stressful things a person goes through. They do it maybe 2 to 3 times their whole life. I've done it 2,000 and like helping 2,000 people with their home investment journey in my career. But myself personally, I've bought and sold multiple properties and bought one at the height of the interest rates last year in July because I saw the opportunity in the market that will go away when interest rates continue to fall. So there's opportunity when people are afraid and there's intimidation going on in the market because the media companies are spreading it like, oh, their home prices are going to crash. It won't happen. I've went over that on my lives before. If you missed it, go back to my YouTube channel. You'll be able to see all of my previous stuff where I'm showing you the charts and data about housing formations, housing completions, and the birthing rates. We have not enough properties for the amount of people who want to buy them. That drives price up. Plus, when private equity is buying up 30 to 40% of the inventory, that causes the homes, because typical buy cycle for a first-time home buyer, everybody who's joining, if you have questions, put it in the comments. Typical buy cycle for someone who is a first-time home buyer is 3 to 6 years. They're in their home, and that home comes back to the market for additional inventory in 3 to 6 years. But these private equity and big companies like BlackRock are not putting them back on the market. So they're holding the inventory because they want to control the market. That helps them drive up their values to the property, drives up market rents. And if you look at like the holdings at like BlackRock and some of these vanguards that they own, they also own the multifamily. And so this is why I try to explain to people to buy what they can comfortably afford now. Don't try to impress people. I think the old version of the American dream of like this big house with a picket fence and 2 cars and blah, blah, blah was an antiquated marketing tactic to get people into debt versus properly leveraging their property and their outgoing and incoming expenses. Because if you're paying rent, you are paying a mortgage. It's just not your own. You're paying 100% interest. And so some people waited to buy because they're like, I'm going to wait for the interest to come down, while renting, paying 100% interest. And so that mindset is a flawed logic because home prices have still appreciated this year over 5%. So if you're looking at a $300,000 house, that appreciation of 5% is 15 grand. So in an effort to try to save $200 a month, $2,400 for the year, you cost yourself the $15,000 in opportunity cost by not buying. We're not even factoring in the principal balance reduction, the tax savings. So there's just so many opportunities. But the thing is, if you're living in a 1-bedroom apartment, some people are like, well, I'll wait to buy when I can buy a 4-bedroom house or whatever. How about no? Buy a 1-bedroom condo and then stay in it for 12 months. And then you can use that as a rental property later or leverage the equity to pay off debts and go buy your next property and have that in your real estate holdings, because you can buy it as a first-time home buyer utilizing down payment and closing cost assistance programs, stay in it 12, 24 months, then go buy another property and do the same thing over and over and over while you're building your real estate portfolio without ever having to put 20% down. People don't know what they don't know, and that's okay. That's to be expected. But that's why we're on this app. And there's plenty of fantastic loan officers. I say this every single live because I want people to feel comfortable and confident with their decision to move forward. And part of that is the relationship they have with their loan officer. And so you want to interview us. There's a couple of great ones. And I think he might be in my live right now. His name is Carlos Munoz. He's a great loan officer. Kat Loans, she's awesome. Go back and look at and listen to their information and interview us. Ask certain questions. How many properties do you own? How many properties have you bought and sold? When was the last time you bought and sold a property? What is your vision for the future? How do you see the market? Because you want to know that the person that you're working with is aligned with your vision for the future. And so that's where that happens in the initial consultation. When I have a call with a client, I'm getting to know them before I worry about pushing the application on them. I want to get to know who they are. What's their goals? How many doors do you want to own? In investment terms, that's what they're looking at. How many doors are assets under management? How much do you want to purchase? And what is it the amount that you would need in passive income to be able to quit your job and enjoy your life? That's what my heart and passion is to help people buy freedom and their time back. Because watching my mom, what's going through right now in ICU and getting care flighted again this last week, and like it was touch and go. She almost had to be like, we had to do the thing where do not resuscitate if her surgery didn't go well. And that is the second time, well, no, third time in the last few years that came up. It's terrifying. And this time was even worse because just the medical system in our country is in shambles. But nevertheless, I want time because my mom is only 66 years old, but my dad is 71 and he's been working his whole life and he was in the military for 20 years. But because his mindset never adapted to, I need to take care of my future, he's still driving, he's still working. And I don't want that for anybody because we can properly leverage our equity positions to manage our debt, invest in the future, and buy our time back. Because imagine if you could go, like I've said this on my live several times, if I could go back in time to when I was 20, 21, had a job for a couple of years, I would buy myself a duplex or fourplex, live in one side, rent the other, stay in it 12 months, and then do that process again. Go buy another duplex or fourplex and repeat that process over and over and over until the point where I had enough passive income to where I didn't have to work. And that's the other part is knowing when enough is enough because we don't get enough time. We don't have enough time. And I don't want you to over leverage yourself trying to impress a bunch of people who don't matter. Buy what you can comfortably afford. If you're happy in your one bedroom condo, why try to flex for anybody? Buy a cool one bedroom condo. Imagine this too, especially for this younger generation where they have all these apps. Imagine you buy a one bedroom condo and you document the whole thing on Facebook or TikTok or any of these apps, every one of them. Hey, here's me doing the pre-qualification process, walking people through it, what you experienced, walking them through the closing, walking them through the little updates. Because if you go on this app, you can search like do it yourself projects, home renovation, and with little money out of pocket, these people are doing a bunch of fantastic things, but you are increasing the equity position in your home, making it yours and building your equity all along the way. And that's the part that I want people to see is the opportunity for you to build long-term generational wealth. Many people don't know this, but 2/3 of the wealth in our country is tied to the equity people have in their homes. And that's important. If you have questions, put them in the comments. Ron Toy with the Ron Toy team at Cross Country Mortgage. Thank you to all the new people that have joined the live. It means a lot to me. And again, I say this not for you to try to feel like you have to use me. There's a ton of good loan officers out there. Love to earn your business. But I don't want this to be like I'm trying to hoard information. I'm trying to freely give you this stuff so that you have the impetus to make a phone call, to find and interview somebody close to you that will help build your long-term generational wealth. Because if you can get it, like we've all talked about this. Like I just had a closing like last month where they bought a $257,000 house and they got a check back at closing for $2,100 because you can get your earnest option appraisal money back at closing if you use a down payment and closing cost assistance program. Some other options, but like 2,100 back. That's almost all of their earnest option and appraisal money. This is huge. And so if you knew that if you only had a couple grand and you could get it back at closing and you could have a $257,000 house, like where they bought in North Texas, it was a decent, cute house. They could easily service the debt. And so later on down the road, as their family grows, they don't have to sell because they didn't over leverage. They can use that and hold it because if you look back at what that house was in the 80s when it was built, I think it was like the first deed showed like 67,000 and now it's 257,000. And so that's a huge amount of money. And the property, if they would have updated it to like the rest of the neighborhoods and built and tore it down, that's where I'm talking about properly leveraging your equity position because there's gentrification that happens in neighborhoods, right? You start to see what neighborhoods are having these huge houses pop up. Like here in Dallas off of Royal Lane and some of those other parts, you see a weird mix. Like you cross a little apart And next thing you know, it's all mega mansions. And so if you're noticing that's popping up, that might be something to have a good conversation with your loan officer. Like, hey, I've been in my house for 10, 15 years. I almost have next to no mortgage. What kind of renovation loans do you have? Because if I do this, now I make this money instead of an investor who's going to come in and offer me a low ball number, get a renovation product, but they'll probably use hard money and then flip it and in essence rob you of your equity. There's plenty of us out here who can do it. It's awesome. But yeah, if you have questions, put it in the comments. I'm here to help. But I just wanted to give a couple of tips and tricks on how to grow your net worth, what to look out for. Like I said, PCE, that is the Fed's favorite measure of inflation. That report's coming out on Friday. Stay tuned. But with everybody was all about the rates coming up, being reduced because the Fed fund rate got cut 50 basis points last week. But like many of us loan officers were saying, the 25 basis point was already factored in 3 4 weeks ago. And so now, as we're dealing with the stuff that's going on in China, the upcoming reports, the different bond auctions, we're going to see some of those gains go down and up. It's never a perfect straight line to the full recovery. But as we move into the fourth quarter, the Fed is talking about another Fed fund rate cut. Depending on how PCE goes, depending how the jobs market goes, we'll have some movement. But again, you don't want to wait to perfectly time the market. You just need to understand you need to have these conversations with your loan officer so you optimize your rate and find out about buy downs. We'll go into that in future live. But right now is the best time to buy because it's still a place where sellers are giving seller credits, paying for title, but we're starting to see offers going way over list again. Sellers not wanting to pay title, sellers not wanting to give concession. And that's why I'm telling people buy now before rates get any further, because every 1 point drop in rate brings another 2 to 3 million buyers back to the market, increasing prices 2 to 4%. That's a lot of money to waste trying to save a couple bucks a month. Buy what you can comfortably afford. Build your own long-term generational wealth instead of someone else's. Because like I say almost every live, you are renting, you are paying a mortgage, it's just not your own. It's time for you to put yourself first and buy a property, invest in your future. And if your credit is in a situation, if you don't have money, don't stress. Contact a loan officer that'll help you put a game plan in place. Because if you know the target, man, it makes it a little bit more fun if you got to put in a little extra hours, do a little, flipping some furniture, doing whatever it takes to get those couple of grand, or tax season's right around the corner. If you don't know what you need, it can be a little bit intimidating, and our brains will have cognitive dissonance and tell us all the reasons why it won't work because we've never done it. But if you know the plan and you know the prices and you know the costs and you know the payments, all of a sudden it's like your brain will want to go after that goal. You have to have measurable, tangible metrics in place in order to achieve a goal. Otherwise, it's just a hypothetical wish, and you'll look back saying, dang, I wish I bought a house 5 years ago. But I'm here to help. Go to the YouTube channel. The link's in my bio. If you missed the live earlier, I'm happy to be here. Happy to answer any questions. On that link in my bio is also the link to my calendar. Let's schedule a planning session just to chit chat, get to know each other. But thank you so much for all that joined. Ask questions. It means a lot to me. Talk to you soon.